Here we go. This is wonderful. Things that would help Pat Schroeder look good on TV. I mean, literally the guy has got get bangs cut, stop squinting, wear earrings. Despite tips, Schroeder won't change her image. Schroeder stirs up women. Schroeder should seek advice on hairstyle and earrings. Schroeder, we need a house cleaning. Stand up straight. That's just August to October.
Former Congresswoman Pat Schroeder of Colorado ran for president in 1987. She remembers fighting gender bias throughout her 24-year career on Capitol Hill.
The first reaction was people would say to me, you're a fluke, right? I say, what do you mean? Well, didn't they think Pat was a man? I really don't think they did. To walk in and see women in the law school was just shocking. Congress was kind of the same way. There were no women pages, there were no women doorkeepers, there were no women police officers, there were no women parliamentarians. So how dare you run?
But during her presidential campaign, the everyday gender bias she experienced in Congress intensified, becoming the headlines of major newspapers.
You're not a man and not likely to become one soon. If you do run for president, would you think it prudent to adjust or modify or don't play down what some people might call a smart-ass style?
You know, people always say, you know, she shoots from the hip. And as I say, out west, it doesn't make any difference where you shoot from as long as you hit the bullseye, okay?
Schroeder felt voters and the media weren't ready to see her as a viable presidential candidate. Now, 3 decades later, women are still facing challenges while breaking into the male-dominated field of politics.
Do you feel like you could be seen as too aggressive in doing that?
You know, this is what women face all the time. It's always too much of this or too much of that. But you put your head down, you do your job, and you keep on going.
I just kind of kept my head down and kept moving forward. You can't allow that kind of stuff to distract you, because if you do, you'll be frozen in place. You won't do anything.
Carol Moseley Braun of Illinois, the first Black woman elected to the Senate in 1993, held many titles throughout her career, including the only woman to run for president in 2004.
Then you got a choice of any of these individuals will deliver for you, George Bush won't.
One of the papers wrote that I was delusional for even trying. It's like, wait a minute, how many male do you have who have these many credentials, has done all this stuff running for this office? And you never said they were delusional.
Women in politics today have an easier time calling out sexist commentary as unacceptable.
Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, a
I think she needs to come across as softer, gentler.
Has nobody told her that the microphone works?
I haven't been shouting, but sometimes when a woman speaks out, some people think it's shouting.
This is my favorite photograph in the world because they just look so happy.
As the nation faces the opportunity to elect a female vice president, the many women who ran for executive office throughout history still serve as inspirations.
This is a picture of Congress 100 years ago, and there she is. Bless her little heart. And she was the first woman from Montana elected before women nationally had the right to vote. Obviously, I hadn't been the first woman who ran for president. There were other women who had run, Shirley Chisholm being one.
I am the candidate of the people of America.
So they've been knocking at the door, should we say. And I think by Ferraro actually getting the nomination for vice president,
Geraldine Ferraro
opened the door a little wider.
I proudly accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
I truly believed that Ferraro had done such a good job that she had really opened the doors. I guess I was thinking we could move faster than we clearly have moved.
One of the major things that hasn't changed is we still don't have a woman as president. We still haven't seen a woman in those top, in president or vice president. We still haven't seen a woman in those positions.
Christina Reynolds was the deputy communications director for Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. Today, she works at Emily's List, a political action committee aimed at getting Democratic female candidates elected.
You know, it's notable that this country has elected men in their 20s to the U.S. House since basically the country was founded, and over 100 of them, and the first 2 women in their 20s were not elected to the House until 2018. That's something, says something about how we view women's experience, how women view their own experience in some cases. The more women we see, the more women aren't the other. When you think of candidate and you close your eyes, hopefully you think of an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you think of a Stacey Abrams, you think of a Hillary Clinton, and not just a guy in a suit.
This year, we have more examples of female politicians than ever before. But women still face scrutiny on their appearance, especially when it comes to showing emotion and looking tough enough for executive office. Schroeder, despite her many accomplishments in Congress, is often remembered for her presidential dropout speech, where her tears became the headline.
That's why I will not be a candidate for president. I could not figure out how to run.
Oh, my tears, yeah. Well, I couldn't figure out how to run A, late, and B, without money, and C, actually as a woman. And so I shed a few tears, and oh my word. If you time it, I think it's seconds before the speech went on, but you would have thought I had a mental breakdown. And I remember people saying, "We do not want anyone's finger on the nuclear button that cries." And I would say, I don't want anybody's finger on the nuclear button that doesn't, so let's have a debate about this. And for men, it was like, isn't that terrific? They're showing they're human.
I remember the moment when the young girl in Nevada talked about being afraid for her family.
My parents, they have a rule of deportation. I'm scared for them because how the deportation. I'm scared that they're going to deport me.
Come here a minute.
Okay.
Let me do the worrying. I'll do all the worrying. Is that a deal? I'll do the worry. I'll do everything I can to help, okay?
And that was a moment that we put out there because when we saw it, we thought that is Hillary, and we want people to see that.
The other thing is how to look tough. I did the eagle. That was my best thing of how to try and do the most macho thing I could think of that didn't make me look like a silly actor. It really was hard, and I had people saying, no, you should go out and play touch football. What? I don't play touch football. Oh, but it'd be really good, Voices from everywhere, and they all meant well. I mean, they all meant well, but it was enough to drive you crazy.
The public perception of what female candidates face is still problematic. 47% of women think that female candidates are held to a higher standard than men, while 28% of men said the same, according to one Pew Research Center poll from 2014. Perceptions like these could prevent women from running in the first place. But a Washington Post ABC poll earlier this year found a 63% majority of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents said the gender of a presidential candidate wouldn't matter.
The cultural environment is very different now than it was in 1992, or even when I ran for president.
What was wonderful this cycle was to see, we had 6 women running for president. On any debate stage, there were multiple women up there. I would argue that hopefully it changed the way we looked at things. So we didn't just look at a woman candidate and then the field. We looked at the field and they were running in different lanes that weren't gender specific.
And I think that's actually in the end more important across the board, that the society has moved in the direction of being ready for a woman chief executive. We've had everything from Me Too to the racial awakening that people are experiencing since, post George Floyd. Here's the good news. The good news is the women's expectations are such that we will never go back to the old days when women don't step forward. There will be women candidates for president from now on.
It's got to come much more from the bottom up. They've got to have their own women candidates running that educate them gradually, and maybe we're finally going to get there.
I was told that after I won my primary, that the other women candidates around the country saw a 20-point boost in their poll numbers. I guess women seeing that it was possible was part of the inspiration.
26 women currently serve in the Senate, and 101 women serve in the House. That's a high record on both accounts. But they're still outnumbered by more than 400 men in Congress.
Women, for all of the celebration about, wasn't it wonderful what happened in 2018, there's still like 24% of the Congress. And in states like Florida, it's like 17% or something. I mean, it's still very small nationwide. We've got books of them upstairs of other ones, but these are kind of, I don't know, the Presidential Express. So, you know, they're all kind of fun.
The efforts to break the glass ceiling have been successful because if it's not cracked yet, it will.
We were very excited when Joe Biden announced that he was going to pick a woman VP, but we also thought, of course you are. When you look at the list of qualified women, it's easy to see that there's a long list of great choices there. It's easy to see that a woman is a phenomenal choice.
When presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden nominates a woman as his vice president, it will only be the third time in U.S. history that a woman was the vice presidential candidate.
So hopefully we're going to see some women take over. It's our turn.